if you guys had a few minutes to sit down with your 14-year-old self, right? And you want to have a conversation or talk to them about women, what would you tell your 14-year-old self when it comes to women? Whoever wants to start this, feel free to do so.
I can't chime in on that one. At 14, I really didn't care about girls, so I was into training and karate and boxing, and I wanted to be like an MMA guy, So I didn't really care about that. At
Would you
14,
tell yourself to
they didn't even interest me, you
so would
know.
you tell yourself to not focus on women and focus
What was
on
that?
and would that mean that you would tell
Yeah,
yourself
at
to
14.
focus on other stuff and not women?
Yeah, I mean, I was, having fun. I wasn't. They didn't do nothing for me. I mean, it was great to have fun behind the bleachers and stuff like that, but it wasn't like something I focused on. I didn't care. I really didn't. Like, they didn't thrill my interest at that age, you know.
So let's
Besides, I couldn't even
just
bring one home anyway.
okay. So just because Antoine don't have kids, right, and he don't know what he would tell himself, I'm gonna repurpose the question just for you. All right. So Antoine has already admitted that he wants to have children. At when you have a 14-year-old son, what are you going to talk to your 14-year-old son about when it comes to women? What are you going to tell them?
I I tell them exactly. Treat them like ice creams. Look for the best flavor and stay away from Rocky Road. That's it. Have fun. Sample the goods. That's what you're there for. I don't want, protect yourself and try each flavor, see which one suits you best. Have fun. I'm not going to tell him to get serious. I don't want him to get serious. That means he's going to get into all that, you know, pregnancy shit and questions about. Nah, man, have fun. Sample each one. Knock yourself out. Don't bring one home. And I would tell him the utmost stress protection, but definitely treat him like ice cream.
Treat them like ice cream.
Yep.
Best
No, I
flavor and
want
stay away from the rocky road.
I want just stay away from Rocky Road and just sample the goods, enjoy yourself, get all out of your system. There's how many flags are there? 300 something? Try each country. Experiment. Have fun. Yeah. At 14, if I had to tell him and he came, I don't think he'd be interested at 14 because, we'd be doing other things. But I would tell him that.
Yeah. Anybody else? Either question.
Let
would
me
you tell your 14-year-old son, or what would you tell your 14-year-old self about women?
Let me jump in on this real quick. 14-year-old Dustin, you'd be hard pressed to convince him that he's gonna love anything else in his life more than he loves his four-wheeler. So I'm gonna tell 14-year-old Dustin, maintain that love affair with that hobby, right?
Yep.
Focus there. But I'm gonna come back and talk to Dustin at 19, right? Because at 19 years old, Dustin's got a taste of what it looks like outside. He's got a taste of a little bit of freedom. He's got a taste of a little bit of money, and he's with a girl where he's starting to think about what future looks like with that girl. I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna stop that. I'm like, you need to stop that now. You need to look at your future for you, not how you build a future with another person. You need to focus now on what it is for you and move forward with that. People are going to come, people are going to go, because at 37, there's not a single person at 37 that I knew at 19, right? They're gone. They're not in your circle anymore. And that the people at 37, the 25-year-old group, they're all gone. We say hi, niceties, things like that, look back, reach back, but you're not building for you now, right? Are you going to pick a haircut? You got at 19 years old, you got to pick a haircut. And that's the only haircut you're ever going to be able to have. You got to pick a shirt, and you can only wear that shirt for the rest of your life or whatever. Pick that style. You're going to fit that style. You're not going to do it there. You need to start focusing on you and building forward. And that's how I would talk to my 19-year-old self. 14-year-old self still riding the four-wheeler. He don't care. He ain't got a care in the world. He thinks money grows on trees and has no interest in doing anything else. But 19-year-old Dustin needs to have a talk. Needs to be talked to.
Yeah, 19 at 17, 16, 17, I'd start to have that little extra conversation with him about choosing right. And, I wouldn't say choosing. I would say I'd educate him more about the birds and the bees and the mistakes he can make and how he can end up. I would teach him more on that side. Wouldn't want him to settle down. I still want him to, but I would definitely enforce more authority in how to go about it.
Are any of you familiar with the movie House Party?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's an oldie.
I will give my 14-year-old self that talk. Keep your mind on them books and off them gals. At 14, I was in high school, a freshman. They say that high school, between junior high and graduation, those are your years where you've pretty much formulate a foundation of who you are going to be when you're older. To focus on that foundation. If the woman that you are supposed to be with, if the little girl that you like is about that foundation, but you're just a kid, be a kid. Just be a kid. Be a 14-year-old. That's what I would tell my 14-year-old self.
Man, when my youngest son was 14, that joker was 6'1". That joker was like a grown man. I'm 5'7" on a good day. On a good day. Dr. Easy, what you telling your 14-year-old self or your 14-year-old son?
The 14-year-old self, I started working. It was the first, not really the first time I started working, but it's the first time I had a job. So I would tell, I know I would want to tell 14-year-old Thomas to stay focused on your goals. 14-year-old Thomas used to think that he was ugly, unattractive, liked girls, but didn't feel like the girls liked him. So I would tell him, don't worry about, girls right now. If anything, just be friends. Just take your time, make your money. And then I will probably take, I can't think of the name of the movie, but Chris Rock was in the movie, and Kerry Washington from Scandal. I cannot remember.
I think I love my wife.
Chris knows it.
There we go. I think I love my wife. And I would tell my 14-year-old, because he would get this, because remember I said I had a job at 14, so I was like working. I would say you can lose a lot of money chasing women, but you won't lose women chasing money. So, keep my brothers, so I would say, keep your head in the game. And, and then I would also say, work to treat, folks with respect. I have a sister, have a mom, right? So I would say, and when you are connected, just think about how you want people to treat them. And right now, that's the only thing that comes to my mind right now. But I love what the brothers were saying about 19-year-old and stuff like that. But I was definitely I was still in the similar headspace at 19 and 14. I don't mean in the maturation. I mean I was scared of girls. So anyway, that was a different reality.
Yeah. Go ahead, Chris.
I will give a caveat. Doc, you said something, but I would change the wording when I am talking to my 14-year-old self. Instead of chasing money, I would be chasing purpose. You'll never lose women chasing purpose, but you will always lose purpose chasing women. The money component normally comes with that, but purpose. Because as I said, at 14 years old, you are learning. At 14 years old, that's the base level. You understand what I'm saying?
Lieutenant Colonel Christopher's got it.
Yeah, most of them are freshmen going into high school, trying to figure out who they are. Their voice is cracking. They're trying to figure things out. So figure things out. That's what I would tell my 14-year-old self. And the fact that it does not seem, you know what? I'll save that. Go ahead, Uncle.
No, you go ahead. Oh, I would go back and tell my 14-year-old self to learn women. And what I mean by that is similar to what Antoine said as far as practicing, but I think at some point they need to learn. Now, what I would focus on to say, hey, look, bro, look, young G, look, young Unc, this is what you need to do. Nothing wrong with having a little shorty, a little friend, but don't get serious about it. Learn how to learn women is guess what I'm saying. Is because I think sometimes we can tell kids to, hey, focus so much on the other stuff. Then when it comes time to date a woman, they have no experience. They don't know what to say. They don't know what to talk about. Everything's awkward. So not that they should get serious, or not that they should be running through every single flavor of the ice cream, like Antoine said, but however, learn, try to learn from the women. And I know that's asking a lot from a 14-year-old. I know that's asking a lot. But if in a perfect world I had to go back and talk to myself, that's what I would try to get him to understand. Say, look, bro, learn women, learn about yourself. Because, like I said, if you want to be married one day, you have to, at some point, you have to start learning women. You know what I mean? And I don't think that you should wait until you're 30, you're 35, and you finally found your purpose, and now you got $1 million in the bank, and now you say, oh, wait, now I'm gonna go out there and I want to go and try to find the woman that I want. I think that you would have missed a lot of opportunities to learn about women and learn some of the things that women want, and also learn some things about yourself that you may not know about yourself unless you're in a relationship, or unless you spend time with women. So I think it's probably, I'm kind of sort of in the middle, a combination of what everybody's saying, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of balance, in young Garfield's life, as far as how he should, when it comes to women, so.
I
But
wish 14 I wish 14-year-old Dustin would have learned what a fiat currency was and how it worked. That's what, rather than doing what 14-year-old Dustin was doing. As far as learning the women, I mean, no, I think it's unfair.
You guys, we're talking 14.
I know. Let me finish this real quick. I think as far as the women go, the women aspect thing that you brought up, learning women, I don't think there's a fair yardstick that you can apply across the board, right? Because people's unique personalities. We're all over 30 or over 35. Safe to say. I don't know how old Chris is. I'm just assuming, but let's just say we're all over 30. If you were to lay out characters and things like that on a graph, there's probably very few things that would apply to all of us. And the same would be true with women. And a child's not going to learn that. A 20-year-old's not going to learn that. A 30, I know guys that are in their 40s that still haven't figured that out, right? And they're all women are the problem. No, sir. Here's the impossible truth. You're the problem. You're the problem. Women are not the problem for you. And the same goes for women. All men are trash. No, ma'am. You are your problem. You are 100% your own worst enemy, and there's no other way to go about it. So, like Chris said, find your purpose, find your education. Like Anton said, you just got to glance over, but don't build. You're not building foundations at 14 to 19 to 25, right? No, you're learning. This is your learning phase. Take full advantage of your learning phase. At 25, you're going to go into your production phase, right? So in your learning phase, learn as much as you possibly can in that space, right? Experience different stuff, meet different people, try different things. Don't cover yourself up in debt. Don't lock into 30-year loans or, lifetime payments on anything. 25, now we start building. But from 14 to 25, that's your learning period. Exercise it.
Got it. Hey, I want to make sure we stay on women, not like in a negative way, but you guys know what I'm talking about. And what next thing I want to talk about is,
you're a sponge at 14, man. You're a sponge. You're a sponge at 14.
You should be, but today,
you're a sponge at 14, man.
Today, 14-year-olds
you want to be
phone holders. They're little magnetic things that just hold cell phones. That's all they are, right?
Yeah, but we were talking about our 14-year-old self, which was way back in the 90s or the 80s for some of us. So
no, but it doesn't matter. I'm just saying you're 14, dude. You want to become Michael Jackson. You want to be you're inspired by everything. You want to your hands want to touch everything. I mean, I can't see. I mean, even if I went back to my 14-year-old self, girls was the last thing I wanted to. I wanted to be a basketball player, football player, do martial arts. I was a sponge. I was always at the park. I don't even think I always drew, but I don't even think I was really developing my skills at that time because there was so much around me. I had two older brothers that were doing things. I mean, there's cars that I wanted. I mean, Hot Wheels was still a thing for me.
I know some 14-year-olds that have totally different mindsets and totally different experiences. Like I was in the high school a couple of years last year, year and a half ago. at the doing an internship at the high school, and man, them 14-year-olds ain't thinking about nobody's Hot Wheels, ain't thinking about none of that stuff. They got totally different things on their mind. But since we are going to be talking about getting over women, I want to start off the next conversation with the downside of your past breakup. Like I said, most of us at some point have been through a breakup. If you want to share your experience, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine too. I will start this off and I will talk about one of my breakups. Um, yeah, one of
What
my
age are we talking? Let's set the age because there's
whatever age you want to talk about, whatever age you want to share with. So mine was in '03. So 25, 85, 94, I was about 28 years old, I think, close to 30. That's when mine happened. And for me, I thought that it was a shot in the dark. So for me, what happened was I came home and my wife at the time and my two sons were gone. Like I came home from work in the house and nobody was there. So that's how one of my, that was like a that was what happened in my life. Like I said, that was in 2003. That was 20 years ago. So what happened from that, that was the first time I'd had like suicidal thoughts. First time I've ever experienced like a certain amount of depression, all these different things. I was living almost like a double life because a lot of people didn't know what was going on. I was going to work every day, like everything was fine, and then I was getting home and it was lonely and it was empty, and everything reminded me of my family. So it was very hard for me to go through that period because at the time I had thought that my family was everything. I had thought at the time that I'd put and invested everything, blood, sweat, and tears into this woman, into this relationship, and into this family, and then to have it just, come home from work. I was in the military, serving my country, and I come home and that's what I come home to. So for me, there was a hard breakup just because of the nature of it and how deep it had got and how mentally challenging that was for me. Because, like I said, when you think that you have invested everything 100% into something, and like I said, I'm not going to sit over here and act like that I wasn't part of the problem. I'm not going to sit over and act like that I was the perfect husband or the perfect father at the same time. However, I didn't think that after 8, 9 years or so, I was going to come home to that situation. But it is what it is. Maybe I deserved it, maybe I didn't. And I am not here to pass judgment on her and to say that what she did, she shouldn't have done. She had every right to do whatever it is that she felt like she wanted to do. But like I'm saying, for me, that was the downside of one of my past breakups was just, all of the negative energy and the suicidal thoughts and all of that stuff, the depression that went into that. But I was able to bounce back from that. But that was the downside of my past breakup, and that is something that as I've gotten older, I've heard more of. But I am interested in seeing what you guys have to say about that, whether it's your experience or someone else's. I know all y'all good looking dudes, you guys probably were always the ones who ended their relationships. You know what I mean? Nobody ain't never broke up with y'all. So, but just in case, that's why I throw it out there. You can talk about somebody else's story.
Dustin, you
Muted, Dustin.
Dustin,
Real quick and get this out of the way. I'm 21 was my last big breakup, the one that really affected me. It was out of the blue. I didn't see it coming. I'm not going to name any names um, for privacy's sake or whatever. I'm sure they don't want this business out there either. The emotions that came along with it. When I lost a girlfriend, I lost a friend circle. Right, these people that I spent months with and developed close relationships and ties, and well, like they got that in the breakup, or at least it felt that way. Because guys don't want to hang out with other guys without their girlfriends sometimes, and if they're hanging out with a single dude in the circle, seems weird. So you're outcast. You're kind of alone for a little bit. Things start popping off and are happening. Plans that you've made have died, and I think that's the hardest part is remembering the future. If that makes any sense, like because you're in a relationship with somebody, you're looking down the road or you're thinking down the road and like, we're going to do this and this and this, and these things are going to occur in the future. When that relationship ends, that's all gone. Right. So Like it's the death of my future. And now not only am I mourning the loss of a person that I cared about, that I wasn't ready to lose or I wasn't ready to move on from. Now I also have to remember the fact that everything that I thought we were going to do together is also gone. That negatively affected me for a long period of time. And, obviously you get over it, you move on, you meet somebody else, things are great. Um, that one, though, I think if we were really to do a deep dive, would also attribute to the failure of my first marriage because I chose so poorly moving on to the next thing. And then I held on to that because I didn't want to feel the way that I had felt again. By the time that my divorce rolled around 10 years later, I was immune to it, right? And it made me cold to the prospect of losing relationships. It made me cold to everything as far as emotion goes. And even to this day, I'm still uh, not an emotional person. Like, I gave it all up at 21, and now today I got nothing left. I got no gas. So, problems and occurrences. There you go.
Man, that's
That was,
crazy. Oh,
you know
real
what?
quick, here's a caveat, Antoine. Check this out. Even after all that, we still end up getting back together.
Jesus.
And we was end up married for 19 years total.
Wow. Well, I'm gonna. Geez, listen. I'm gonna
Hey,
go with my first one at a young age.
bro.
So
You ever heard? Um, I won the Simp of the Year award a few years in a row.
Hey, if you
Hey,
did that, I must have been running a close second. But
bro,
go ahead.
oh my god.
bro.
Okay.
I'll admit it, bro. Like I have no problem
Wait,
admitting where
what
I
You
age?
used
did
to
not
be.
know any better.
Wait a
I
minute.
ain't
What
know
age
no
are we
better.
talking? What age are we talking?
I was 28.
28.
Okay, 28. You were that dumb at 28?
Dumber. We
Lord
got
have
back
mercy.
together at 29.
You were really dumb then. Oh Lord have mercy. Okay, well I can't relate to that at
I
all. But
know, but so now you see why when I talk about certain things, it's like you can't even like that thought doesn't even like register in your brain as even being possible, does it?
dude, you're 28. I mean, you're almost
Exactly.
30.
But that's exactly my point. Sometimes, Antoine, it's like there's a whole other side. Just imagine everything that you know and learn. There is another
Ooh.
person out there that's totally opposite of that. You know what I
Oh, yeah.
mean? Totally opposite that has been through. So that's why I'm just like, bro. Like when I heard people's stories, I be like, bro, I see why they go through it or do all of these different things. Like, bro, I've been there, I've done it. I've been a simp before. I know how it is. Now
Listen,
I'm on the outside. I'm just like,
And a
how in the
lot of the
world did
time,
I do that?
listen, I'm
But
not
right.
saying I didn't have
And
my
a lot
simp
of the
moment.
time, we do not say anything because we get
yeah,
ridiculed.
Listen, I'm
yeah,
not
and it
saying I
ain't
didn't have my
me.
simp
Like,
moment.
I know you're not directing that personally at me. You're
No,
talking about the behavior, and I get that. And like I said, I don't have any pushback. But like Chris said, I
but
didn't know.
We
no,
did
but I'm
not
not
know.
saying. Listen, I'm not saying I didn't have any simp moments, right? I'm just mine came early, so I learned my first hard breakup, like what Dustin was saying with the whole, or you were saying with the whole suicidal, um, bad thoughts, negative, all that came
Yeah,
in like 17, 18, right? Because
Oh, so you
I
just
had
got
two
it
older
over with,
brothers,
huh?
and I was able to talk to them about it. I was able to talk to my dad about it, who's from the islands, and set me straight. Right? I mean, he said, but that came at an early age. Okay, I get that, and so I mean, the experience. I was with her for a while. I thought that was everything to me. I put everything into it, and it didn't work. And when it worked, I told you devastation, right? Because there's levels of hurt. There's hurt, and then there's crushed, and then there's devastation. That's how I look at it, right? So I was just as a young kid hurt, and I didn't know how to process it, right? Then and my father was like, "Son, really? You thought you were gonna marry this girl? She's the best you can do at the moment. Believe me, there's fresher, hotter ones out there. Don't worry about it." He was that. My brothers, they were like, "Man, what you got to get is a Rolodex. You got to get a
rolls
what
a
you call a
day.
little, you got to get a
Bunch of
plane,
You
right?"
tell
So
him
then
his
I had
name ain't age ain't the Dr. Easley.
right.
yeah,
You
yeah.
got
Have a
to get
bunch
the
of
Rolodex.
yeah, roll a bit, yeah.
You know what I mean? And then my brother schooled me like that. So then after when I was, I prayed to, take it within. Again, but I will sample the goods, but I'm never gonna. And I did it. I really got all my tears up, and I would tell every kid that. And then I threw myself more into what I love to do at that age, passionately. So I threw myself more into that. But the hurt was, it was so overwhelming. It shocked me into never experiencing it again. Right. And I really schooled myself. I really honed in on what I love to do. Right. And I took it out on everybody. At that age, I was very expressive, and I took it out on everybody. You know, you couldn't tell me, don't worry about it, you'll get over her. I would give you a backhand for saying that to me, right? Then my father sat me down and said, son, you gonna marry this girl? Like, really? You thought that was the best you could do? Like, come on, man, you're good looking. You ain't even tall yet. I mean, wait till you grow up, you know?
And on your wallet.
And so that got me out of it. And that got me out of it. And then when by the time I got to my mom, she was saying, after all that, you better not be coming to me and talk about it. You had long enough to grieve. All right, this ain't death. You had long enough to grieve. Get over this thing. And then that was it. So I got out of it early. But I had my boy, oh boy.
I would say the downfall of my past breakup was similar to Dustin's. I lost a network. I lost a network of people that were involved in doing something that I absolutely loved doing. And returning to it constantly reminded me of her. So it was difficult. It was extremely difficult. So that would be the biggest downfall. Not only losing a network, but kind of sort of losing the love for something that you absolutely enjoyed. And that was quite possibly the biggest, one, relief of stress, and two, a way to network and communicate with different people from different cities, different age groups, things like that. This was 2018, 2019. My uncle had passed, and we had went to his funeral in Jackson, Tennessee. That man lived to be 98 years old. He held 4 generations of children in his arms and took pictures with each one. At that point, I said, what the hell am I sitting here mad for? Why am I sitting here grieving over her? I want that. And after that, my focus completely changed. And just like Dustin, I completely shut down emotionally. And I got honest. Brutally, lowest common denominator, honest. To the point where I was viewed as toxic because I was honest.
If they call you toxic, it means you're just doing it right.
That is how I take it now. But yeah, that would be the biggest thing. Just losing that side of it. I dabble in every now and then. The people there still say that they love me, they want me around, they miss me and all of that. But the sheer thought of doing that brings everything that I felt back. You understand what I'm saying? So it's kind of a double-edged sword.
I cringe when I hear the song I'm in love with a stripper because that's what was popular at the time that I was feeling my lowest. And not that it has anything to do with anything, but like say I just you smell something, you hear something, you go somewhere, takes you back. That song pisses me off.
I get it.
Well,
Dr.
everybody
Easy or Antoine,
shared.
you guys want to shoot at this one?
Oh yeah, I mean everyone shared something. I think from a break, at least what I heard. I want to thank y'all for sharing that. Something that was kind of unexpected something happened. There's some downside to this, but I even think that sometimes when it's a mutual breakup, so I've had it where like I've had one where like dang, kind of didn't see it coming, but I'll say a couple of ones that I've had, I kind of saw it coming. kind of wanted it to come, you know. And so, but there's a positive side to it. But let me stick to the downside and answer Unk's question as you all did. When it was over, and I really love what Chris said about a network, and then how Dustin was, you know, like talking about it's like kind of how something kind of ended.
Hold on real quick, Dr. Easy. Can I ask Chris a clarifying question, please, before you continue?
Yeah.
Chris, was that, and I don't know, I'm just, this is where it played out in my mind. I don't want to assume, so that's why I'm asking the question. Was that a situation to where you were playing, where you were eating? You know what I mean? Like
In a
you was
sense,
working with the person and dating them at the same time, or
yes,
like
which was the
involved in
absolute biggest
yeah.
mistake I could have ever made in my entire life. I wish I had someone like Antoine had to sit me down and say, "Hey, boy, what is you doing?"
And that's
I
why, yeah.
wish I had that. That is why
I
it
Yeah,
was
I just,
difficult.
yeah. And I just wanted to clear that up why before Dr. Easy finished, because he had brought that up in reference to that. But go ahead.
No, I can talk about that too. But you know, but the downside of, you know, like I questioned myself, like, was I really a good guy? And so the downside, and I also love, like, you know, when y'all said like you cut something off. I didn't cut it. I didn't cut, you know, the energy off because of a breakup. I cut it off because of a turn down. But y'all think it's the same thing as a breakup. You know, breakup, you're in a relationship, but you know, if you ever wanted to be in one, you're pursuing a person, you're getting to know them. It's like you pop the question. It ain't about marriage. It's just like his Antoine said, let's go get some ice cream. And then when they let you know that you're not the one they want to have dessert with, mother. Anyway, so that made me shut down. Okay, and I was
The self-esteem side of it.
come on, brother. And I was 21. Okay, when that happened. So I'm you know, so even though, you know, different dynamic, but same age. Okay, with brother Dustin there. But when it's mutual, the one thing that it's a couple of things. I was like, dang, did I make the right decision? So the self-doubt crept in, and that self-doubt led me to engage with other people that I really, you know, shouldn't have. Okay, so I'm here questioning my decision. I am second guessing myself. I am not believing another downside is I didn't believe that someone great else will come along. So now I kind of get stuck and compare every person to this person, even though it was mutual. Okay, but you know, but it's still these other pieces, you know, that I'm missing. So to me, like those are some of the downsides: self-doubt, questioning yourself. Was kind of the same thing, right? You know, questioning yourself, but then how that led to other relationships. And I still think I learned, you know, at 44, I'm like, I learned, I know I learned what I needed to learn, but just going back then, I probably could have prevented some lessons if I hadn't had that self-doubt and, oh man, did I make the right decision? And oh shucks, maybe I was a bad guy, you know. And then and the things that I can start telling myself a lot of different stories about me that lead to different engagements, you know. And so that's actually always been my challenge. I'm sure everybody here, you're your hardest critic. I'm my worst critic, and sometimes really to a fault, almost danger. And I'll admit at one time in my life hurting myself and trying to do worse. And so when it comes to the relationship, at that point, that happened when I was younger. So this one was just, oh man, am I making the right decision? I don't know what to do. And then it's like a rabbit hole, and I'm just going into different people, you know, different women and stuff. So that's the down. That's about 5 or 6 downsides.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. Welcome to the show, Coach.
Greetings, Coach.
Coach America.
What's going on, fellas? How you doing?
Good, man. You know what I want? Good, man. We'll give you a couple minutes to get adjusted to the show. Antoine was about to chime in on the downside of his past breakup, man. But I just wanted to welcome you to the show real quick. Appreciate you being here, man.
Appreciate you having me.
Can I add something?
And let me know if I break up. That's why I left. Let me know if I break up. But anyways, the downside for me of a relationship, of any relationship, is the lost time that you can't get back trying to get over it, right? And I wouldn't say self-doubt, because I always had my passion of what I love to do. So, and nothing took the place of that. So she wasn't above that. No woman was above that or ever will be. But anyways, So for me, it was about lost time trying to get over it. And then the other thing, like what Dr. Easy said, is in a sense self-doubt. Will I find that kind of love, or at that stage, if it was love at that time? Because now I know it wasn't love, it was just lust. But so I knew it wasn't love. There ain't no way that was love. But and you get that self-doubt because somebody else gonna be tapping it, and you just start looking at yourself going like, damn, and you start really putting some of that shit in your head that was the best you could do. And then you spend so much time trying to convince yourself that you know that you're better than that, you could have done better, and you lose focus of what is in front of you that is so great, right? Because she taught you something, but you lose sight of the lesson because you're like in this misery of a spiral of it could have been me and this and that, right? So, and that was, like I said, at a certain age. When I was in my teens, that was pure like whatever. What I started stuff I was, but I feeling and addiction with something. Time of get over that's what I was about. So much time, right? But then again, like I said, I had a brother that put a book in front of me, say, bro, she wasn't that hot. Look at this, look at this, look at this. Come here for a second. Let me show you something. We didn't have internet back then. He dropped open a magazine. That's what you want. That's what I'm talking about. When you get that, then you can cry over that. But that you ain't crying. And so he built me up again.
Jesus H.
He showed me that he really
Get it,
showed me
though.
that he really showed me that there's something hotter and fresher. My brother showed me that there's something better out there. He showed me I thought her tits were the biggest things, and then he showed me this, and I was like, God damn, okay, bro, I got this. And at the stage of my life, he's like, you ain't even got 2 pennies to rub together. You're borrowing money off from me to take her out. You're borrowing my car to take her out. What are you doing? And then I understood that. So he started to really make me become mature and understand where I'm going in life. Focus on what you love to do. Get your ass back into karate. Do this, do that. So that was at that stage of my life, though. It wasn't
Can
the
I add
adult.
something, please?
Please do.
There was another downfall, and this is a downfall that a lot of us kind of went through on a general scale. The saying that the best way to get over someone is to get under someone else.
That helps.
Instead of pulling yourself out and saying, why does this continue to happen to me? And figuring that out.
So do you think that's wrong information to advise men?
Yes.
Yeah, out of your effing mind. You are
Yes,
crazy.
it is.
Best thing to do.
That is if you are looking for something. That is if you are looking for something specific. If you are just out here dating, just to date, or dating to quote unquote sample the goods, do you? But if you are looking for something completely different and you are looking for something stable, I would recommend pulling yourself out of it and figuring out why you keep attracting the things that you are attracting. Especially if you are attracting things that you do not want.
I would argue that that's contextual. That's 1000% contextual.
What age are we talking
As
now?
someone said earlier, the common denominator is you.
That was me.
What?
Yes, Dustin said that earlier. Figure
So
that out.
the over someone, under someone, that can play to remove a huge emotional piece away from, which is I've been denied access to this person, therefore that makes me undesirable. You don't have to go sleep with them, but if you get out of your space, go out and meet somebody else, introduce yourself. That one night of just out there laughing and joking, and you got people talking to you and engaging with you. If you're laughing and engaging, that negates that 1000%. You don't have to rush to bed with them, but if you're introspective enough, you're like, hey, this person didn't deny me because there wasn't anything tangible qualities, or there wasn't any tangible qualities about me. This person denied me because I'm not the right one for them, but that doesn't mean that there's not another person out there for me. Now I can move
That is what
forward
I am
without
saying.
that without that emotional
That is,
piece on there.
that is what I was
So-
saying. The context.
Oh, so
is
we're
not,
definitely
the context
in
isn't
agreement.
elaborated on. You know what I'm saying? The context
Yeah.
is never elaborated on. It's just on to the next one, instead of don't just go on to the next one thinking that you are going to get the same thing that you left. Go on to
Yeah,
the next one and just go on to the next one without any thought process. Get out of that movie that you have playing in your head that only stars you, where you play every role in the movie.
Right. No, you're 1000%. Sorry, I interrupted.
I think I
No,
did
you
my
were
one.
fine. I am
No, no,
actually glad you
you didn't
said that,
interrupt.
because that was the part of it that is missing. No one ever put that particular phrase into context. It was just grab the next girl instead of just go. You understand what
We
I'm
have to
saying?
face facts about the people that we surround ourselves with, and a lot of times we have two people, right? We have people that don't care, and we have people that are glad you have the problems. So getting good advice from folks around you sometimes can be really difficult. I'm not saying that's synonymous with everybody, but at 19, 20, 21, you don't have a whole lot of people that are really willing to take the time to be interested in you, unless you're really paying attention and know who those folks are. You're talking to your buddy, he may not be the guy for you, man.
I agree with that. I mean, you
think-
shouldn't.
What you got, coach?
Yeah, I think I did my warm-up stretches now. Um, so first and foremost, I apologize for being late. Um, as I'm listening to all of this and appreciating everybody's perspective, I also want to inject that when you start looking at the downside of your past breakups, there are far too little or next to no conversation about the trauma that you're experiencing as a young man or even a young woman. Let's be completely honest. You had something in mind about what this relationship was going to be in your on your own understanding. But then how many of you, after going through a breakup, to where your father or grandfather or uncle sat you down and explained to you that this was a traumatic event, that you should not jump into another relationship? I understand exactly what you guys are saying, with the contextual aspects of, getting to quickest way to get over one person is to get under another. But the other side to that coin is that this is now being a learned pattern of behavior. And so in essence, every time you go through this traumatic event, that's going to be the go-to. And Uncle June, I see what you got. Absolutely. That's the pattern of behavior that exists, because now you're saying, oh, well, that's fine. I didn't need it. I'm good to go anyway. But here's the downside to that way of thinking. When there is any turmoil within the scope of that relationship, you automatically start disconnecting and looking for your next fishing buddy. So you don't even give that relationship an opportunity to redeem itself. This is why I say what I say. You have to understand the biggest downside to that breakup is that you're going through some version of trauma, whether you view it as a massive trauma or not. It is still a version of trauma. So you need to get to the point to where you can have a healthy conversation with a mature adult to teach you how to manage those emotions that you're going through. Because if not, you are a ticking time bomb waiting for somebody else who may view you as that next person in their life that they want to have something, long term with, but you're only looking at them as a come up, a get over, my emotional reconciliation, if you will.
Bounce back.
Yeah, but I look at it like this, man. You're not gonna marry that person. You're 21. I don't understand why you need some big explanation at 21. My father told me straight, son, you ain't gonna marry her. She definitely ain't coming home to me, and you're definitely not gonna get her pregnant. What is your problem? You're 21. Go out and expand. Focus on your life. Become the best version of yourself. I need you to succeed over here, so when I retire, you can take care of me. These were the things my father built into us as young adults because he wanted us to succeed. He didn't want us to care about girls, nor should you. You're 21. You'll learn as you go. I'm not saying jump on with the next girl you come across, but have your fun, get over it, talk to other people like Dustin said, realize your value again, build yourself back up. You don't need that past. You don't even need to think about that past because it has no presence in the future, none whatsoever. You learn, you realize what you did wrong, you digest, you break it up, you compartmentalize it, and you move on. What is she going to do in your future? The sun's still going to come up. She has no relevance in your future, none. So I don't understand why you have to be so enveloped in it to figure out and what you did wrong and what about me? No. I'm gonna tell my son, bro, get over yourself, man. You ain't all that, and you ain't the most handsome.
2 points. 2
Antoine,
points. I
you
want.
said something at the very,
Gee,
very beginning of that statement. You said your father sat you down.
thank
A
God I
lot of
had
us
one.
did not have that. This is why I said you were lucky. You were lucky to have those male figures in your life to actually sit you down and say, hey, boy, what is you doing? A lot of us learned the hard way. This is us learning the hard way. Go ahead, coach.
Two,
Absolutely.
two, 2 points I want to bring to the conversation in relation to that. Because first and foremost, I can't take away your experience, Antoine, and I definitely appreciate you sharing that. So that's for starters. The first point is I understand exactly what that looks like. Now consider the other
Is he
side of the
frozen?
coin. Consider the other side of the coin.
Is he frozen?
Consider
I
the
think
other
Coach is
side of the.
frozen.
No, I'm not frozen, man.
Oh,
Consider the other side of the coin. Consider the young lady who is not looking to sow her royal oats, as they said on Coming to America, right? And so she is looking at you as her potential husband. I do know people who got married at the age of 20 and are still together today. So it is definitely possible. That is the first way to look at it. The second way to look at it, and I have to go back to that point, if we don't, and I get what you're saying, I really do. But if you don't catch the behavior at an early age, if you don't help a person learn how to deal with trauma at an early age, they literally move forward from trauma to trauma to trauma. So again, you have to consider the other side. You have to consider the other person. Sure, you can teach your son to go out there and just have fun, but how many people is he damaging along the way? Right?
oh well, you picked wrong. Sorry, you picked wrong, baby. Baby
That's,
girl, you picked wrong. You
got it.
picked wrong.
Again,
Just
I
like my
got
dad
it.
told me, son, you picked wrong.
Got
You
it.
picked wrong.
Just hear what I'm saying. I'm not
I'm
saying
just saying, you
again,
picked wrong.
I'm not saying your experience is wrong. I'm just saying there's another way of looking at it,
I
right?
tell my daughter the same thing. You picked wrong.
Understood.
Not my fault. Go to your
Again,
mother.
understood. Just giving you another way of looking at it. So again,
I will
how many
never look at it from
people
another person's point of view. It's about
that's
me.
that's fine. And again, hopefully those people who understand that early will end it early. I'm just saying,
Yes,
right?
yes.
But so again, we have to look at it because we're not talking about teaching people to damage people. That's just me. I have to speak for myself and myself alone. I'm not looking at teaching people to damage people. I'm looking at teaching people to be the healthier version of themselves so that we can build a stronger community. But if I teach anything other than that, the only thing I'm looking at is perpetuating a divide that already exists.
But coach, everything when you break up with somebody, there's no good person in it. You're both in the wrong. You both picked wrong. You don't mean to hurt the person, but breakups hurt.
Absolutely.
Period. You can't make bad news sound pretty. It's still bad news. So tell me
Absolutely.
what I need to do to get over it. So if my daughter comes home crying about her man, I'm gonna say, honey, you picked wrong.
Or
You
what
picked wrong.
or
I'm
what
sorry
did
it
you
happened to you.
or what did you learn about yourself in this situation?
Exactly. What did you learn?
Right.
Did you exactly? But that's it. I'm not gonna tell her to dwell on it. I'm not gonna tell her to all that. No, you picked wrong. And
I'm
I'm glad you
agreeing.
picked wrong. I didn't like him either.
I'm agreeing with you there.
But
Yeah.
Antoine, what Coach is kind of getting at there is human beings are path of least resistance when it comes to pain, right? I hurt now. I don't want to hurt anymore. So I'm going to go do whatever it is that makes me not hurt immediately, right? And when it comes to relationships, that can be damaging if it's getting under the next person, right? Just moving on to the next. What Coach is saying is take a minute, step back, identify what it is that you can learn from that relationship, from that
Right.
breakup,
I agree with that.
and move forward intelligently to the next one without creating the exact same echo chamber or this infinite loop of stupid, right? To
Right.
where now I've learned from previous breakups that the easiest way for me to get over it is just to go hop under somebody else. That makes the pain go away immediately. The second that I start having any turmoil in this next relationship, I'm already looking at the next fishing partner. You just what he's saying is slow down,
One in a chamber.
build healthy habits, right? Build healthy coping mechanisms and move forward intelligently from the failure that you just faced, right? Or
But
or
Justin, but I get that. But what I'm saying is Don't care about what the other person is going through. Worry about the guy in the mirror, because you're the one that has to get over the feelings of what you just happened. So don't worry about the other person. It sucks to be them, because you know what? That person's saying it sucks to be you. Work on yourself.
What
Don't care
he's not.
don't care
We're
about
not talking about the one in the rear view mirror, Antoine.
No,
We're
but
talking about the next one that you're going to put in the
right.
crosshairs.
Exactly.
That's who he's telling you to have compassion for. Is the next one in the crosshairs, not the one that broke your heart, but the one that you're going to fuck up by you using them as your coping mechanism. That's who he's talking about.
Okay,
Well, well
They
said.
call that
Well said.
trauma bonding.
and pertaining to that one, I'm saying if you're pertaining to the one that's coming ahead, you can't determine how that person is supposed to feel about you. If that person decides to be with you, knowing you're messed up and you're messed up in the head, and they can't recognize the symbols, sucks to be you. Sorry to say, you're trying to predict what another person's supposed to feel about you because you're trying to fix yourself through that person.
Now you're overcomplicating this thing.
Wait. Let's do the reverse. Antoine, you are absolutely right. You cannot control how that other person feels about you. You cannot predict that. However, you can predict how you go into that situation without bringing the nonsense that you have from your past situation into it. That is what we are saying. That is what I said when I said pull yourself out of it. What coach brought up, what Dustin brought up. You go into another situation and you still are reeling from a previous situation, but you're going into that situation just to relieve some pain. That is called trauma bonding. I say that all the time, and I do not wish to do that. Why would I bring trauma into a new situation? Why not pull myself out of it and figure out why I went through that situation in the first place, so that way I don't hurt the next person? You are right. It is not about them. It is about me. I have to take accountability for me, and I have to figure out what is wrong with me or what is right with me, so that way I do not hurt the next person trying to get over the previous person. That is what we are saying.
And what I'm saying is, I've been somebody's rebound. It's actually kind of fun, but I've been somebody's rebound, right? That's what that person is for you, a rebound. I'm keeping it simple. I'm not going to try to make all these fancy words for something that's called a rebound. I've been a rebound, right? In the beginning, it was good, but when I recognized this person was messed up, I got out of it. I said, wait a minute, I'm not going to be, no, you ain't even healthy. And I left. I'm just saying that if you use someone else to get over what you're going through as a coping, whatever you guys want to call it, coping mechanism, I keep things simple. Yes, I've been somebody's rebound. So I've been on that side. And it's not the greatest feeling. But I'm saying,
do you think, all right, real quick, Antoine, do you think that person should have gotten into a relationship with you knowing that they was on a rebound? Or you think that they should have waited until they were healed and then sort out somebody?
it's not for me to decide that. It's that person. It's not for me to decide that. And I really don't care, but it's not for me. I will do whatever it takes that I need to do to get over what I need to get over. And if I don't have Tom, Dick, and Harry to help me, I'm gonna do what I feel is right. And
Okay,
I'm not gonna care about the
I understand, but
Antoine.
I guess what I'm saying is, do you think I understand that, and I guess I'm gonna ask the same question again.
I got
think
something.
that person is like, do you think that person is justified in getting you? Do you think that people should get into relationships that aren't healed?
No.
And I know you don't.
No, I don't.
That's what that person did to you. They wasn't healed, and then they got into a relationship with you. And then, yes, it took you some time, but they wasted your time because they got into a relationship when they should have been healing at the moment, and they wasted your time.
People heal differently. Some people need that. Some people need that codependency. Some people don't have the mother or the father, so they find the next thing to grab onto to find some way of healing. And if they think jumping into another relationship is their coping mechanism or whatever you want to call it, it's not for me to decide to say it's a wrong thing. Sure, it's a wrong thing. I wouldn't want to do it, right? I throw myself into what I love to do. That's
Antoine,
different.
what you're advocating for, or what you're saying, is that it's okay to use people as a coping mechanism. So let's remove dating from it. I'm now Floyd Mayweather or Manny Pacquiao, right? And I go lose a fight, right? So that relationship that I had with that other boxer's over, right? We've broken up now because the arena's empty, the ring's empty, and I lost that fight. But to make me feel better, I'm going to go out and I'm going to walk the streets of New York City and I'm going to sucker punch everybody that I see and knock them out cold because that's going to make me feel better. Is it okay for me to use those people as a proverbial punching bag for the failure of my previous relationship? Because that's exactly what you've just been sitting here arguing for the last 15 minutes.
No, it's not. The people that would tell you to do is get your ass back into the boxing ring where you practice and use those partners that have experience. That's who I would tell you to use. Yeah, go back into the boxing and go back into your sparring partners and use them to get out your aggression. That's what I would tell you to do, not people on the street. Who's stupid enough to do that? Really? Come on. Why would I advocate for that? That's just nonsense. That's just nonsense.
You just said use a sparring partner to go build that better relationship and get back in the ring. Am I correct?
Yes, you have to. Just like if you get
sparring partner is there to help you learn, and a sparring partner is there not knowing that you are not there to hurt them. You are there to learn. That is what we are saying. You cannot keep bouncing from person to person to person to person trying to get over what you went over. That is a vicious cycle, and it is trash.
I don't see it like that. All right.
You know what? I'm gonna move on. The horse is dead. We've beat it long enough. So you know what? At the end of the day, what happens when men? What can be some of the negative effects, or what happens when men don't get over women? What could be some of the downsides, or what happens when men don't get over women?
They buy boats and motorcycles and live by themselves and go fishing whenever they want or hunting. I mean, lots of terrible, terrible things. I'm just saying. There's
that's the life I want.
There's a lot of potential tragedy that's available there.
Well, then let me get that. That's what I want. But screw it. That's what I want.
That didn't sound too bad right there. I was like, that's the man. That didn't sound too bad.
If you pick the right lady, you can do all of that with the lady.
Listen, I want to be the first to say a good woman can make you or break you. Okay, let's be clear on that. A good woman, and when I say a good woman, I'm not talking about the fling. I'm talking about one that's got you, when you're up and when you're down. It can make you or break you.
Hold on. Who is that woman for Antoine? Antoine, who is that? What does that woman look like for Antoine? I want to put it into context before you move on. What a good woman is.
Okay,
thank you, Chris. I appreciate it. I want to figure out what a good woman looks like to Antoine first.
I'll tell you
before you go any further.
Okay. I'll tell you the main thing for me of a good woman. First of all, she's got my back and she would lie for me. That's one, right? But a good woman for me is to know her place. And she is a woman. To know her place, to know my trigger points, to never test them, to never play with them. Don't ask me a question if you don't mean it. Don't say something to me if you don't mean it. A good woman knows her place. For me, right? She knows when I say something, I mean it. I'm not just saying it for the sake of saying it. Right? She knows her role. She knows I will never wear the skirt and she will never wear the pants. Period. Right? She knows how to cook clean because I know how to cook clean. She doesn't need me to tell her things because she knows me so well. She knows what I like and don't like. She won't approach me with stupid questions just for the sake of a giggle, right? She'll talk to me when I want to hear her talk, and I will talk to her when I won't waste her time, and she won't waste mine. She knows me that well that she knows when I'm drawing, she ain't coming first. She doesn't need to hear the stupid I love yous and all that shit. From me, right? Because I'm good, but she knows I love her instinctively. She knows what makes me happy. She knows what dinners make me happy. She knows what I like. She doesn't bring nonsense into my life and chaos and stuff that, I don't get that. Like, why would I do? I would want to know her so inside out that I know what to get her for Christmas because I've been listening to her for the whole year. I know what to get her for her birthday because I hear what she says and what she needs. My job is to get it done, right? That's how I'm looking at it. She loves me. I love her. She knows if she breathes in another man's direction, we're done. It's like it's over. Like we're not going to have a conversation. And vice versa. I want her to be able to walk away if I do something stupid and not come back. That's how strong I want it to be. I don't want her to forgive me if I cheat. I wanted to know she had a life before me and she should have a life after me. So if I cheat and do something stupid, she's going to tell me I did something stupid and leave. She's not going to forgive me. She's not going to look for a way out. No, she's going to walk, because that's the strong woman that I want. I don't want her to stick around. That's what I like. She had a life before me. She should have a life after me. Because I know at 100%, even if you kiss another woman or another man, we are done. There's nothing you can tell me to make me go back in there. That's the kind of woman I like. Yeah. If I had to, if my perfect
I
woman.
appreciate it. Now, what happens when men don't get over women?
Don't get over women.
What happens? That's
Loss
where
of-
that's where we was going. I thought you was answering the question, and
Oh,
that's
sorry.
what,
You asked me what my perfect woman was. I answered that
because I thought you was answering this question, so I wanted to get into the context since you started talking about the women.
How can you not? I don't understand that question. How can you not get over a woman? You learn to live with it. You never get over
Antoine,
it.
have you been listening? Every man does not get over a woman just like that.
Dude,
I
you learn
told
it.
you that I went through depression. I told you that I thought about deleting myself. I'm letting you know that there is another side of this story that happens to a lot of men that may not have had fathers, may not have had those conversations, may not have had those other brothers. Those are the guys that we're talking to. Those are the guys this conversation is for. Not
Okay,
for the guys who had their fathers and got taught everything right. We're talking about the guys who didn't. That's why we're here. That's
So
why
look
we're on
at
this
this.
podcast. We're talking about the guys who didn't have us.
Fine. Then this is how you look at it. Every relationship, you should look at it as a death. You don't get over it. You learn to live with it. If it's that important to you, you don't get over it. You learn to live with it. That's it. That's how you get over a solid, hard relationship. It's like death. You have to treat it like death. You don't get over it. You learn to live with it and move on. Today's modern world, you have to survive out here. The economy is getting more. Things are more important. Things are more expensive.
I get all of that. So what happens when men don't get over women?
You don't get over it. You learn to live with it and move on.
I've gotten over women.
Exactly. But when I say that,
for the Antoine, I think for the men out there that haven't, and what I've seen happen in the past, hyperfixation on coping mechanisms, right? Whatever it is, a lot of times it's toxic, right? I'm just going to drink. I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to do that. I'm going to find something that makes me feel good, numbs the pain. Loss of drive, loss of appetite, right? Apathy or poor performance at work, right? Which then turns into unemployment, which leads to additional depression, additional hyperfixation on coping mechanisms. There's a lot of different things that happen. And unfortunately, these things are spiraling effects that lead to a significant amount of men killing themselves. And that's not again, we have to develop. Starts at home, starts with self, starts with introspective, but these are real situations that take place. It's not just it's over, move on. It's over. It's okay. There are other things. Some people can't, some people don't, some people haven't, and some people will never have the opportunity to do anything other than
get into therapy. Get into therapy. If you can't get over something and you tried and get into therapy. Just get a good therapist. Preferably a nice one that can understand you. Get into therapy. Take all your money and get into therapy. If you don't have nobody else around, walk yourself to therapy. There's some great programs out there. Get into a nice little Alcohol Anonymous or whatever you want. Get into therapy. Because you obviously can't do it yourself. And there's nothing wrong with therapy. I've done it. I love it. But that's me. Because I want to spend the minimal amount of time getting over something. Because time you cannot get back. And I think everybody that goes through something, get into therapy. What's wrong with it? What's wrong with the avenue of therapy? Why are you trying to dwell on something and try to get into therapy? Get into like a coach. Get into a good, mentor or health coach or whatever you want to call them. Just get into it. Yeah. You have too many avenues today. That's it.
Shout out to everybody in the chat, including Leon. Hey man, good job, man. Leon says that's easier said than done, because when you have invested so much into someone, it can be hard to deal with within a different outcome. I agree with that. But I really did want to get into understanding of some of the downsides or It don't have to be a downside, but what happens sometimes when men don't get over women? Dustin went into a couple of different things, but I would like to hear, from everybody else of some of the things that happen when men don't get over women.
Fear of commitment. That's that's one of the biggest things. I think a lot of times, and I like what Dustin said because he went down a lot of them, man. And I agree with you 100%. But I think one of the other ones is a fear of commitment. Like they will kind of haphazardly get into a relationship until the other person proves that they have longevity and commitment and staying power. So they will get into relationships, but they won't commit themselves because of the trauma and pain and frustration that they experienced from their previous relationship. This is why I spent so much time previously talking about helping younger men to overcome the loss of trauma. Antoine, you're absolutely right. Losing a loved one in the scope of a failed relationship, especially somebody who you planned on spending the rest of your life with, it is almost like a death of a relationship, and so they have to learn to get over that. And when they don't, they carry that forward with them. Chris mentioned trauma bonding, absolutely. So now that guarantees that you go from relationship to relationship and relationship, and you become a serial relationship killer. And so that's kind of like what that looks like. So they will get to the point of having a fear of commitment. It's not like they won't get into a relationship. It's just that they won't commit to the relationship that they're in out of fear of the possibility of what could potentially happen.
Is that so wrong? Just out of curiosity.
I can't. I'm muting.
Is that so wrong that you really have to like 100% commit? Like, is that so wrong? Really? Like, just having a little bit on the back burner, something in a little safe. I mean, I'm just asking, right? Because nothing's written in stone. But is it so wrong to just hold a little bit for yourself so you don't have to shed a tear if that person leaves?
We
You can
attract
have
what
everything
we
else,
are.
give it everything else.
We
You know what I mean?
attract what we
I
are,
just don't.
meaning that maybe we attract
Yeah.
someone with the same mindset and the same values. Let's see how it feels on the other side. So it's okay that we think
Yeah.
what we want to think, but we tend to attract what we are. So
That's pretty good, sir. I like that.
Yeah.
probably not fun on the other side.
That's why I say men should become the best version of themselves. The only thing you fall in love with is what you love to do. So you always have, it'll never let you down. It'll always be there. It's like your partner in crime. No matter what happens on the external world, you can go back to it. And it just makes you feel good. And you remember who you are. That's what I love being about an artist. You don't need nothing on the external world because everything I need to do, I can express on the canvas. Right? And anything that pisses me off, I can get it out on the canvas. I've had my best work done from breakups and bad things that have happened in my life because I was able to channel it. So that's for me. I think men.
Good point.
Yes.
So do you think that if men, especially like an artist like yourself, if they don't get over a woman, you think that it can have a negative impact on their creativity?
Yes, 100%. I've stopped drawing because of a breakup, and I never do that again.
Hold up, stop.
Yeah.
Stop
Oh yeah.
Not
Oh yeah.
Antoine.
Oh yeah.
Hold on. We repeat that for the people in the back. Antoine just
Oh
said
yeah.
that he has stopped drawing over women.
Yeah. Before I became who I am, I'll never forget it. I was so hurt. I mean, like this was the one I was telling you about that I can say was one of the fishes that got away in my early years. I can say that, right? I really thought she was the one for me, right? And when it didn't work out, and I take full responsibility of that because, like I said, I loved my art more than her, right? And I wasn't willing to compromise. Not that I ever would, but I wasn't willing to balance it out. I'll say balance. I wasn't willing to balance it out. And on a serious note, no joke, when I felt that one, so I knew that was the fish that got away, and I had to channel that shit into my life to draw again, right? But I also made that promise to myself I would never be in that situation again. So you have to find your purpose in life. So when things happen externally, you have something that's not gonna fail you, which is what you love to do.
And that guy that broke up, that Antoine, that person that had that breakup with that woman, that's the person who we're talking to right now.
Right.
That person that, like you said, you stop drawing. Like that's your
Mhm.
passion. That's who you are. That is what Antoine does and who he is. He's an artist.
Yeah.
And so when you were going through that time, this whole conversation is focused on that part of your life after the breakup, the journey
Right.
after that happens. That's what we've been talking about the whole entire time. And here you are the whole entire time, right up under our nose, been the person we've been talking about, Antoine.
But like I said, and I keep
You get
saying
to
this.
learn all of those things that
I
you've been
learned,
talking about.
but I learned from it. I didn't dwell on it. I learned from it. I blamed myself. I blamed the guy in the mirror. I knew where I went wrong. I acknowledged it like I took full accountability. And when I took that accountability, everything came back to me. Because you can't run from it. You can't talk to some. No, you got to just take accountability for what happened. That's it. That's the key. You can't fix it. You know, it's like that beautiful vase. Every so often, if it breaks and cracks, every so often the light shines on it and shows you that crack and reminds you of that damn what happened that day with that beautiful vase. Right? And you have to take accountability all over again. Just shoot the vase away. It ain't perfect anymore. Take accountability. You made a mistake. It broke. Oh, well. And that's what I did to get back to who I was. And I made a promise to myself never to do it. I'll tell any man to make a promise to yourself never to do it again. You know?
I would say another thing that happens when men don't get over women is they have a revenge kind of mindset. Everything that they do is something that they do to try to get back at the woman that broke their heart. I have seen that.
You muted, Dustin.
I would say that's true for men in general. Have you ever heard? There's a book called I don't remember if it's The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck or if it's You're Barking Up the Wrong Tree. But there's a segment in one of those two books where it talks about the Metallica and the band Megadeth, right? So Metallica, when they first got out to Hollywood to get signed or whatnot, they kicked out their bass player, right? That guy went on to form the band Megadeth, right? Guy had a successful career, sold millions of records, went triple platinum a few times and everything like that. But because his success wasn't the same as Metallica's, he always felt like he was a failure because he got kicked out of Metallica, right? It didn't matter. So when you listen to Metallica talk about their careers and things like that, or members of that band, they talk about their careers and they talk about it on a high note. This man, after years and years and years, he talks about his career as a negative. Like same goes with Pete Best. Anybody know who Pete Best was? Pete Best was the drummer for the Beatles before Ringo Starr. They kicked him out right before the Beatles blew up. He went back to England, started his own band, played clubs and everything like that. When Pete Best talks about his life as a drummer, he talks about it in high regard, right? Because it was his perspective. He got kicked out of the band, and that's fine. He spent his entire life playing music, raising his family, going to bed every night with his wife. And when Pete talks about his life, he talks about it in the highest regards. He didn't make billions of dollars. He didn't impact the world musically. He didn't do any of the things that the Beatles did, or that even the guy from Megadeth did. But it was all in his perspective. He's the reason that he's happy is because of the way that he viewed it. So yeah, the revenge thing does come into play, and I absolutely agree with that. But I think that's a really interesting story because if you look at it prospectively, like, do I want revenge or do I want happy? So it all falls down on the guy and how you move forward.
That was in The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. I've read that book.
Thank you. I couldn't remember.
I need to read that book. I think one of the things that I know one of the things that happen when some men don't get over women is they become stagnant. I think sometimes they just stop. performing, stop doing, stop moving, stop doing anything. They just almost go dark, almost go into like a hibernation, or in a shell, to where they don't want to associate with anybody. They don't want to hang around their friends anymore. They don't want to do anything. And I know some of this could be, mild signs or certain signs of depression and stuff like this. But I think, to some extent, it may be depression. I think that when sometimes men don't get over women, I think it can cause physical pain, hurtfulness, throwing up. Like, you'd be surprised at some of the things that come from just stress, from a breakup of a relationship, especially when you are very invested, or if you have years or children and these different things invested, and it could have been over something that, I can only imagine how many soldiers have went overseas and came back home, and this thing has happened. Every deployment, every deployment, there was always a story. I ain't never heard anybody who deployed who don't know a story about somebody who went overseas and came back and found out that their significant other, or wife or spouse, was cheating on them. Every every deployment. And
You guys have that conversation when you're over there?
Absolutely. I
from
think the
where?
worst
What you
ones.
mean? Have what conversation?
If you go overseas, I mean, your fellow
You
Yeah, we
have it
comrades.
talk,
before you
overseas.
go. You have it before you go.
he's asking, do we talk about it amongst ourselves while we're over there? And we absolutely
Right,
do.
right.
Yeah.
I to
But
caveat on
every
that, I think
18-year-old person don't really know their spouse at 18.
the hardest ones, Unc, are the ones that don't find out when they get back.
Yeah.
They find out years later
Yeah.
when something slips or a note is found or whatever. That's the one. I'd rather find out second I get off the plane.
Yeah.
Right? Like, just be there with your new boyfriend to give me all my shit so I can go live in the barracks.
Yeah.
Like, I'd rather have that than come home, spend a year or whatever, and then find out.
Yeah,
Would you guys recommend, as all army men, except myself, and I don't know if Chris is, but would you guys recommend you get married if you're in the army? If you
Yeah.
join the army?
so
I'm not against it. Go ahead, coach.
yeah, so in conjunction with it, I agree. I'm not against it. I don't think the army is the thing that makes marriage difficult. I think the lack of understanding of two people makes marriage difficult. But to Justin's point, I get that. I would say um, the worst one, which is one that I've seen, is where he comes back and he can't even go back into his own home because the new dude is living into the house that he's been paying mortgage on. So it's like stuff like that. Like when you start talking about what happens to men that don't get, like, this is again, this is why I talked about the trauma. Like, we had to watch this dude, and in my mind, I'm thinking like, there's no way in the world
Mm.
if that was me. I don't care what your rank is. You stand in front of me if you want to, Chief.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be ugly. As
Move some
I get
furniture.
to them, I'm coming
Mhm.
through you. I'm coming through you. I'm coming through you. I'm going to my house.
Mhm.
I'm going in the house. Some people are coming out. You might want to go with me to ensure that I am doing the right thing according to the law. But I promise you, I'm going home tonight. And we had to
Got
take
that
that young
shit
man
right.
in, for sure. But we had to take that young man to the barracks room.
I gotta ask though, with all your experience in the army and knowing, you really expect your woman to be loyal if you're gone for 3 years? Like, you really expect to know her that well that she ain't gonna, like, you really think that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Everybody who
Antoine, that's a
gets
permission
married
slip. Don't
thinks
sign that.
that. I honestly think that everybody who walks down that aisle and gets married thinks that that's the person for them. I don't think that most people go into a marriage thinking that this person is going to cheat on me. I think most people think that they found the one and their problems with relationships and all the bad stuff is over. I think people honestly think that.
I think that too, but I also think that if I know I'm gonna be away from my wife for 3 years and she is out there, I would not put it by her to get a little horny or do something. There's no way I would trust her. For 3 years, she shouldn't even trust me. I'm a man.
Would you be faithful
Instinctively.
for 3 years?
Huh?
Would you be faithful for 3 years?
If she wasn't with me?
No, if in the same situation, you was away for
No.
3 years, you
My
wouldn't be
wife
faithful
was
to your wife?
no. No, I
There
got
you
an
go.
itch.
That,
No
that's
way.
why that's why you don't
That's
think
crazy.
a woman would be faithful to you. It's because
She
you
would
wouldn't
not
be.
be faithful. And I don't blame her if she's not.
I
Man,
know
she messed you up good,
most
Antoine. I'm
most
sorry,
people
bud.
don't.
That's the simp right there. To say that, that's the simp right there. You
What do you
really,
say? I
that's the
missed it.
simp right there. To say that, Dustin, that's the simp move right there. No, that's be stupidness. That's ridiculous. Why would I want to be away from my woman for 3 years being horny? Like, that's like what? Like, why would you put yourself in that position? I even think if you join the army, you shouldn't even think of marriage. You shouldn't even have that responsibility. You should be focused on that because that job requires that.
That job.
That job requires that. Let's say if you're on an aircraft carrier, your job is required to fly those jets. It ain't about the thinking of writing some love letter to mom or dad or honey or sweetie and send your check back home like a good little boy like Dustin would do. No, you are nuts. You are absolutely. I would not put it past her. You're crazy. No way.
So you want these soldiers to be out there with no woman, no?
But
I want them to get
no
their
kids?
ass. I want them to get tail out there with no woman back home.
But
Go
this,
ahead, coach.
but this is the reality of the truth. It's a very small population in these United
That is
States that
nuts.
actually join the military.
Mhm.
And I would say a larger percentage of them don't join because of loyalty. They
Mhm.
join because of the benefits that the military actually offer. Because really,
Exactly.
the benefits that the military offer is comparable to a Fortune 500 company. So, with that being said, I understand what you're saying about don't get married, but trust me, if you don't get married and you're looking for a whole bunch of single dudes to join based upon, patriotism, it ain't happening, Chief. It's going to go back to the draft. I'm trying to tell you.
Mhm.
I don't get it,
Bruh.
man.
Being man, it's not that hard.
What?
Being away for a year. Like I was away for 12 months. I was faithful the entire time. I was away for 15 months. I was faithful. I didn't cheat on my wife the entire time. It was nothing. When you over there and you're in that mindset, you're not really thinking about getting some buns the entire time. You're just like, man, I'm going to work. I'm going
I wouldn't
to
want to. I wouldn't want
He's
to
like, I'm
miss
going to
someone.
work, I'm going to the MWR, and I'm going to the gym. Like, you ain't thinking about nothing else. When you over there,
Exactly. That's
what
my
are you
point.
thinking
I wouldn't
about
want to. Exactly, Garfield. I wouldn't want to think of anybody back home. I
when
wouldn't
you
want to have
come
that thought.
home and you got a wife and you got kids and you got somebody to love
Ah,
you?
But that's not.
You don't know. Like I've seen dudes, and I came back from, not me, but I've seen dudes that come back from deployments after 15 months and there's nobody there. Like that's a sad sight. And guys were like, "Hey man, won't you come over to the house and get some food, or won't you come stay with me tonight?" You know what I mean? Stuff like that, because dudes are getting back from deployment for 15 months with nobody there.
But you were. I don't. What's so bad about that? That's the life you chose. Like you think you're going in there for what? You're acting like you don't make conscious decisions of what your life would be when you left. My goodness, man! Like you're a man. You go away for learn. I don't get this.
I have to forget I'm not speaking
This
to
reminds
someone who is married, who has kids, and who has never served their country. So I
this
digress,
reminds me of the
Antoine. I
I'm
digress.
all of the above, and I think nothing like that. But go ahead.
this reminds me of the other night when I got drunk and was trying to explain to my daughter how the rockets work, how Elon built all the rocket ships, because I don't know shit about any of this.
I do not understand, boy. I would not pick if I'm in the army, I don't even know why you would want to get married. Like why? You're going away that you might come back a half a man, half a body, half a leg missing.
But that's not the majority. Most people in the military don't get hurt. Most people don't cheat. Even like Coach said, there's only a small number of people in the military, and even a smaller portion of those people have all of those other things. I would say it's a higher percentage, probably a higher percentage of divorce than the average Americans. But I think that's for a whole bunch of different reasons.
I look at that as like a rock star getting married. Like, I look at it like, why would you be a rock star? You want to get married? Like, your wife thinks you're really going to be faithful. Like every city you travel with girls throwing things at you. That's stupidness. I just can't get that. I'm sorry, man. Like when my brother was in the cadets, and even though that's not the army, and he was so focused on what he did and going away to camp, and he didn't even think of girls. He was like, bro, I ain't even thinking, man, I got to get out of here. I can't wait to go to camp. And I mean, when I went to camp, I couldn't wait to go out there. I didn't want nothing back home waiting for me like some, no.
Antoine,
I don't get that.
Antoine, do you want to learn
Yeah.
something? Would you like to learn something?
Please don't tell me about okay, go ahead.
All right.
Yeah, I was going. Go ahead.
So here's where marriage, here's the failure point in marriage, and nobody's figured, our marriage in the military, nobody's figured out how to fix it. When you're an E1, E2, E3 living in the barracks, right?
What's
There's an
E1? What is that?
It's your rank.
Your
It's your
rank.
rank. When you're a
Okay.
private first class, even specialist, there's an easy button you can hit to get out of the barracks and get more money, right? And it's getting married, because the military will compensate you for being married, right? So
Right,
what's
so that's the
For
word.
being married?
yes, you get additional money. You get BAH and BAS because you're now a family man and not a single soldier living in the barracks.
You got to
So a
support
lot
your
of
family now.
So a lot of people see that BAH, BAS as a easy button for a bigger paycheck, right? So a lot of soldiers will get married. Some do contract marriages. Some find, I'm going to bring out my high school sweetheart or whatever, because you got an 18, 19-year-old that's going to double his paycheck if he gets married.
Whew.
The Army hasn't figured out an easy way to fix that, or how to correct it, or how to counsel for it, or how to mentor for it, because you can't, under law, I can't tell you can't get married. I can't forbode an 18-year-old service member from being married. They can do whatever they want, right? Because they're still legal citizens. So that's your answer of the causation and correlation of why so many divorces happen in the military, because soldiers will and have demonstratedly married people specifically for the money. And when you do it that way, it never works out well.
But why,
There's your
Dustin?
answer.
Why, Dustin, as a man, would you mess up your life like that? Like, that's like walking. I don't understand that. Like, why would you mess up your life like that just for a cause of getting more money?
For as old as Antoine,
real
for as old as you are, you have an innate ability to not remove yourself from your own perspective and step back and look at it from a helicopter view. Some of these kids that come into the military, it is the most money their entire family has ever seen, right? Not just themselves, but their entire family. My dad never made this kind of money, not mine, but some kid from somewhere, Mississippi, who, grew up poor, is now a private or a specialist. And you know what? If I get married, I can double that shit. Let me in, right? Like, that happens, and there's a litany of other reasons. Yes, she's a stripper, but I love her, and we're going to have babies, and it's going to be a wonderful life, right? She's my high school sweetheart. Everything's going to be great. We're going to come down here. Well, you remove her from her family circle and move her to Fort Benning or to Fort Bragg or wherever, and now she's isolated because you're always in the field. Bad things happen. Kids don't have the ability to think in the secondary and tertiary effects of their actions, and it's nothing against them. We all know that this is possible, but we allow it to happen because by law, I can't tell the 18-year-old he can't get married to his high school sweetheart and move her clear across the fucking country because he's lonely, right? But I can't do that. That's a problem that young leaders have to deal with. Sorry, I'm sorry.
But would you guys encourage that as Army men?
We don't encourage it. Once we rank up, we don't encourage that.
Because this is why.
Hold up, Antoine, real quick, and Dustin. We'll get back to this after the show. Before we end the show, I just want to go around the horn and we're gonna do our final thoughts. But before we do a final thoughts, I just want to throw this question up here on the board. I don't want long conversation, but I just really want to go back in this. True or false? Men need to stop being weak and move on.
Yes.
Add a little bit behind it. No more than 30 seconds behind it, because we're gonna get into the final thoughts right behind it. Men need to stop being weak and move on. True or false?
True.
True,
but I would not consider it weak. I would consider it understanding that she is not the last one that you are going to come about.
Coach and Dr. Easley?
I would need a little more context to be definite about true or false.
Me too.
I would say, boy, be quiet. I would say true when it comes down to moving on, But again, being weak and move on could be a sign of weakness itself. Just simply moving on is a sign of weakness. So true, they need to move on after they do the necessary work on themselves to be healthy for the next person, right? So it's true and false.
Gotcha. Dr. Easy, you want to shoot at this? Or you still laughing?
I'm still laughing. I'm sorry. Oh, what he said, oh, oh, I'm
Got that
sorry.
shit right, coach.
Man, he
Got
got
that
me
shit right.
crying.
I apologize, man.
I'm not
that
hearing
was out of that was out of character. I
that.
apologize.
F that.
Oh, oh
Like,
boy.
my
All right,
goodness.
so well, you know what, Dr. Easley? You first up with the final thoughts anyway.
Oh man.
So feel
Okay.
free to go ahead and answer that question and then roll right into your final thoughts, brother.
Okay, I'm with Coach though on needing, just having a little bit more context. But I do think that more men. I was just telling somebody I'm fortunate that I was raised by my grandfather, a masculine man, an elder who had been married to my grandmother for over 53 years before she passed. So I got to see what it means to be committed to someone, take care of a family, and not play, because he didn't play. He didn't play with nobody but his wife. So I'll say that I think that what we kind of need. I know the question is we can move on, but I really think that what we need is a better understanding of what it means to be a man. And I know that's contexts are changing today, but I still think that we need that. And I think that to me, that answers the question about being weak. Like, look, as a man, there's certain things that we have to be able to do, and then you got to move on. As a man, you're the anchor of your family, anchor of your circle. So you have to move on because people are watching you and moving with you. So that's my answer to that. Final thought: I've enjoyed just like everything listening to my brothers tonight, and I've also learned a lot just like every time. I just think that you attract what you are most times. Sometimes you don't know it. And that's a lot of times why people end up in rhythms and in spirals, because you attract what you are. I'm speaking from experience. And I think that I'm with Coach on the trauma, and I'm with Antoine on having someone in your life that can help you. I see it as the same. If there's someone in my life who can help me not get stuck, you're helping me move through the trauma, but you're also allowing me to be vulnerable and feel. So that's why I would say that if you go through any heartbreak and heartache, leave space to feel, so you don't spread heartache and heartbreak to other places. But there's no such thing as perfection. So please grow up, move ahead, and just try not to make the same mistakes again. And thank you, brothers, for all of the brilliance tonight.
Muted.
Dustin,
You're muted, Dustin.
you're muted again.
Sorry about that. Stop being weak and move on. How about we change the sentence a little bit? Stop being weak or making weak excuses and move on deliberately. Focus on yourself, focus on learning. Men can be weak, and that's okay sometimes. There's a few times in your life it's okay to cry. There's a few times in your life it's okay to be vulnerable, but not live it like that every day. That's not the world we want to live in. It's not the world anybody wants to live in. The old weak men create hard times create hard men create soft or easy times, and so on and so forth. You guys have all heard it. I don't need to repeat it, but gentlemen, especially to go back to our younger selves, focus on yourselves, focus on building the future that you want to build, and then find somebody that you want to have in it. Don't focus on finding somebody to build with. That's not the way to go. And that's all I've got. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here tonight. And it's always a great honor to be in the monks and in the company of kings. You guys are the best.
Navigating the journey of getting over women. I guess my final thought is simple. You are going to get your heart broken. She is going to leave you. You are going to leave her. It is a part of life. Understand that you must move on, but you, just as Dustin said, you must move on deliberately and not take the past hurts into your next relationship or use your next relationship to try to get over your past hurts, because you will be damaging the next person that you get into a relationship with. Be deliberate, be strong, and be deliberate. That's my final thought.
You muted, Antoine.
Sorry about that. So I'm going to take my time with this one. You know, all this revolves around a man's development. And when I say that, I can't stress it enough, become the man you want to be. I shout out to my mom and dad. I am so happy I had my dad as the rock and the hardness and the resilience and the no joking around nonsense that he taught me. And the straight answers, no joke around and all these. My dad was straight. You don't like bad news, don't go to my dad, because he'd tell you like it is. And I love my mother for helping me, for nurturing me to see the soft side of things and finding a balance and to know about the balance and to appreciate that. And I thank my brothers for passing down their experience growing up and passing it down to me, saying, bro, don't make this mistake. I already did that. That being said, as a man, to avoid all this pussified shit we talked about tonight, I don't know what these guys are talking about. You should not be crying like that. You should be developing yourself as the best possible man in life. Put yourself in the best position to succeed. Find the passion, find what you love to do, because when anything happens externally, you have that to bring you back, to remind you of who you are. And that was great for me. And I'm glad I have art, because everything that bad happened to me, I was able to channel it into what I love doing. And that took precedence over any other feeling. I'm not saying not to hurt. I'm not saying not to cry. I'm not saying any of that. But don't be no weak man. Okay, don't. You shouldn't be weak. Move on. Everything that happens to you happens for a reason and a purpose, and you're first to learn from it. The hard part is accepting it, because you're supposed to learn from it. That's really the hard thing, learning from it, because you want to change it. You want to try to go back and change it and fix it and show them that you're not that man, you're not that person. No, show the next person. But do whatever you need to do to get over whatever you need to get over, and not care about the person that's in front of you. Okay? Because I can assure you, they have their own lives, and if you're an idiot, they're going to recognize it, and they should leave. And if you can't get over it yourself, seek therapy, because obviously you ain't doing it. All right? And stop being this whole big, stop making life humans are so good at making life complicated. Don't. All right? Simplify things. It's easier that way. Black or white. Don't have a gray area. If you have to think about it, that's the gray area. No, make a decision, stand by your decision, and accept the responsibility, the consequences from that decision, so you can grow. It's all about growth, but put yourself in life in the best position possible, so you can be the man you want to be, have the position you want to be, have the women you want. But all this whole kind of like sobbing and crying and all, please, no, don't try to figure out life like that. It happened for a reason. That's what I say to that.
So great conversation again. I apologize for being late. I'm trying to keep mine fairly simple. First and foremost, for a majority of people out there, breakup is inevitable. It's going to happen. It's a part of the process of just individual and personal development. And so, generally, in most cases, because you don't go into most relationships with the anticipation of it failing, it ends up becoming some version of trauma. Your goal, your responsibility from that is to find the path to healing for you. For the most part, that means that you should not jump straight into another relationship coming off the back ends of that one, simply because you're not ready. You have to go through the healing process for yourself. That being said, I don't like to focus on getting over, because let's just be completely honest. I don't care who you are. If you've been through a serious breakup, you'll never forget that person. That's the experience that you cannot erase. So what can you learn from the experience? What did you learn about yourself? Right? Once you look at that, the learning, and then learn, understand where it is you want to go, what you want to achieve in your life, and who you want to be. Then compare that behavior to the behavior of the person that you want to be, and plot that course right now to progression. That's the goal from that point on. Growth is available, but again, you have to make the hard decision to grow. That being said, you're growing into the person that you desire to be, so that when the next person comes along, you are the better, healthier version of yourself. It's not predicting who that person is or how they feel or whatever. You're not doing it for them. You're doing it for yourself. That's the key. The key is that in the scope of this development, you're being the better version of what we tend to understand is authentic manhood. Authentic manhood means that you can assume the responsible role of a man at that place when you meet that young lady that you want to spend the rest of your life with. What does that mean? That means that provision and protection is available. That means that being able to have healthy, honest conversation with your soon to be kids is available. Why? Because you had experienced breakup. So when they go through it, now you can have those conversations with them at an earlier age to help them get over that trauma. So with that being said, that's my points for this evening. And again, thank you all for listening.
Gentlemen, thank you all for being here. I really appreciate all of your talking points, all your expertise, everything that was said tonight. I really appreciate it. Chat, thank you guys for being engaged. Thank you for all of those comments, questions, everything that was put in there. Everybody watching at home, appreciate it. Appreciate it. We will be back here again next week, next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for another episode of Elevated Dialogue. And if you can't wait that long, feel free to jump on over on the Empowering Perspective podcast this Friday at 8 p.m. and check out what thus said Mr. Coach Dwayne Dwyer, ladies and gentlemen. And with that being said, gentlemen, it's always great being in the presence of, like Dustin said, of kings and great men. So I appreciate you all for being here. Everybody else, we will see everybody again next week, same time. We are out.